what games are coming up. So INnoVation Rogue coming up next, and then we have got Sue, Cure, and Hurricane going to be playing some games as well. So that's going to be coming up next as well. So we'll probably do Sue, Hurricane, and then we'll save Dream Cure for a little bit later on as we continue our way through this TLMC Korean group. In the bottom right-hand side, we do have our blue Terran player. It is INnoVation, taking on the red Zerg top left-hand side Rogue for game number 1 of a fresh best of 3 in 1 Submarine. We've seen a few games on Submarine now, and most notably, the most exciting thing was yesterday when Bly was all in and Clem dropped his siege tank right here and was able to set up a defense on his third base, and it was really sick. Now, the thing is, the map maker immediately said actually that was not intended and it will be fixed in the iteration phase. But, yeah, it actually sparked some discussion on our Starcraft where people were like, well, you know, why not have things that are a bit different? Even if it is a bit broken, make people play around that in the map. Make people play in a way that says, hey, you know, you should maybe think about that. Blah blah blah. You should think about that. This is something which is, you know, you need to kind of deal with, basically. You know, make it something that you have to consider an option. Stuff like that. Anyways, as we set this up, we do see the overlords moving around in the center. So yeah, it was an interesting discussion. Some people were like, well, that'd be broken as soon as you drop a tank here aggressively. And yes, it probably would be pretty sick against certain styles, but you know, against Zergs have queens, Protoss have stalkers, they could kill it. I don't know. It feels like a fun position. It'd be interesting to see if anyone actually does manage to use it abusively in the tournament. You know, in this event, because this is kind of what this event is for, like testing out maps and seeing if certain things are too abusive, you need fixing them. If someone actually was able to make use of that, that would be pretty sick, I think. I kind of like to see it. Because I'm not sure, like, I feel like it's one of those things as well, though, where the first time you see it used against you, it feels OP. But if you know it's an option in the future, you just make sure you have a response ready for it. Because it's not your everyday thing you have to deal with, so your generic build may not have something to cover that option. But if you know that's something that happens on this map, it becomes part of the meta on the map, right? And that's the only thing I will always say about these TLMC events. That while they're great for getting to see the maps and getting a general idea of how the maps work, you see a lot of these maps which, you know, typically look sort of like, certain things look kind of like, oh, well, that's insane. How are you ever going to deal with that? But in reality, you just need like a week or two of this being played by a lot of people for the meta to develop on that specific map, and for people to say, well, typically on this map, people do this. So if I adjust this builds ever so slightly to do this, you know, and that's what makes StarCraft so interesting, right? You know, the meta developing, etc. So I'll also always be, I mean, it's not a complaint of the TLMC tournament or format, right? I mean, you can't just be like, oh, by the way, guys, here's our new potential ladder maps. We're going to just play everything on these for the next 2 weeks, right? But it's definitely one of those things. As did you just see the Ripper coming up? Anyways, the early game here, Banshee opening here from INnoVation. Teklam on the barracks as well. He's already gone into a very fast 3cc, so it's just going to be a cloakless Banshee for safety's sake. There's the Overlord coming in. He might fake the cloak here as he gets 100 gas. He wants to. But then maybe he realizes it's just a bit too long and the Overlord's going to get in anyways and see that the cloak wasn't already started. So I think he just realizes that trying to fake it is not going to go super well. So yeah, just setting this up as we do have the couple of Hellions still back out into the center. We do see the Stimpak getting ready to go. And the factory is just going to move away. We're going to see INnoVation playing some Bio here. He has absolutely taken Bio back into his playstyle for TvZ after being a very much so a mecha for a couple of weeks during the IEM qualifiers. So he's absolutely brought Bio back. And he's really embraced it. And he looked great in the Kung Fu Cup the other day that he ended up winning. He looked really, really good. And against a lot of the Zergs he played against Ragnarok, who had been on a tear recently as well. So yeah, excited to see INnoVation trying some of his Bio here against Rogue in these early stages. 1-1 melee upgrades. As you see, the Ling's actually able to slip through here. So this is really frustrating when you have just depots are down. I mean, there's no reason for them to be down. And that's just a few SCVs dropping for no real reason, bar your own mistake. And it pulls the Hellions back. But Rogue is also just accepting the macro game on this as well. 1-1 melee upgrades on the way through. We see the Overlords from Rogue gathering up at the front as well. And a couple creep tumors will start to make their way down the left-hand side, out in toward the center. The lair of Rogue in the main base starting to come up now as well. So getting that lair up and running. And getting melee upgrades coming through here. 1-1 upgrades coming into play from INnoVation. And there is the Banshee from Inno. Excuse me, there's the Banshee from Inno, which is going to make its way around this top side and back down toward the bottom right to also try and see a little bit of what else is going on. Baneling Nest coming into the back of the natural here from Rogue. So getting that Baneling Nest up and running. Spore Crawler setting up as well. I mean, again, this is just a cloakless Banshee. It's not really designed to deal damage. It's just something you made in case Rogue goes for a Roach attack early in the game. You're playing 3cc. And, you know, an extra kill or two off of it is always nice, but it's absolutely not essential. As this Banshee might be seeing its last few shots right here if it doesn't be careful about these Queens moving forwards. INnoVation. Queens are pretty slow. He's just not paying attention to it. Again, it's like this Banshee's already served its purpose in the game. It doesn't have Cloak. He probably doesn't even really want to waste too many resources bringing it back home and repairing it because, again, he's not really worried about it. He's not relying on that for damage. He's gone into 3cc. He doesn't need to deal that damage in the early game. The one thing he does need to do at some point, though, is start cleaning up this creep spread. And that's going to be his next sort of stage with the medevacs that are going to be popping soon. He's actually going to go for a Marine Tank push up the right side. So actually, he's going to ignore the creep a little bit. We have seen a tendency lately as the Italians get caught. We have seen a tendency from players lately to say, you know what, let's kind of ignore the creep a bit more and just work around the creep. Which definitely feels like a problem. But like I said, it's been something a few Terran players have done more recently. Like, there seems to be less focus on denying creep spread and more focus on where can I get to that works around the creep spread, which is exactly this position here. Gets around it. Here we go. If the Lings running in, though, and, well, those tanks, they do a decent job. They soaked up the Banelings, actually. So soaking up the Banes means that these Marines still have potential. They're going to lift up and go into the main. And they're going to decide against it and come back around the top side instead and escape away over to the right-hand side eventually. So we are just going to be seeing the Spire about to finish up here from Rogue as well. It's going to be finishing in the main, as we do see the rest of these Marines jumping up into the medevacs and starting to move them away across the map as well. So just going to be seeing INnoVation for the next little while here, relying on a couple of drops and just playing that out. INnoVation's already taken the extra gases, so he's already building a fourth base alongside his 3 extra racks. He's not just going 8 racks all in. He's absolutely looking to let this go into the late game and looking to deal with this in the late game as well. As he comes in, he snipes down a Queen. He loses a medevac, unfortunately. Just took him a little too long to get in there, lift up, and get out, and that's going to be the Queen going down. Sorry, the medevac going down for the Queen. Which, again, is a little bit of a shame. Well, Mutalisk's going to try and chase down the medevacs here. We see the Lings coming in, getting a bit of a surround. Marines being picked away at. And this is going to be a complete shutdown. So this drop does nothing at all. Meanwhile, the drop up here is back and gets 1 Queen, looking for 2. Gets it, and now we'll go for a drone or 2 as well. Probably expecting this to just be shut down quite heavily, right? We see this medevac going to bring this back up to the high ground here. We see the rest of these Mutalisks flying in. They will clean up in the end, as we do have a hatchery bottom left. Building INnoVation sees this. It does feel like there's a lot of, built up here from Rogue, right? It feels like he's got a lot of map control. Like I said, INnoVation's fighting the creep now here and there, but he never really focused on pushing that creep spread back initially, right? You know, he never really focused on saying, oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna really push back the creep, not let you get that set up. He really just let Rogue have it. Which again is a bit of a surprise. We do see a couple SCVs going down. Mita's able to snipe down that refinery. And now the creep is everywhere. And Rogue's going up to not just 5 bases in the bottom left, but base number 6 starting in the top. There's no creep on that base. It should be easily deniable, but it's again just the confidence of Rogue given the status of the game. As we do see the bio and the tank setting up down on the bottom. We see a few Lings and Banes and Mutas over on the right-hand side as well. As we do see the army of Rogue coming back into the top. We're going to see a few of these Banes getting picked off. Well, creep team is going down. Is going to be seeing the bio still pressing forward. So a lot of creep being cleaned out at the moment as the army of Rogue wants to counterattack. Says, well, you know, best thing to do in these sort of scenarios is just to put pressure on the Terran. And then you can rotate back to deal with the Terran play afterwards as well, especially when you've got the creep to speed up your army returning home. Now, those tanks out of position to probably help deal with a lot of these banelings, so the Marines are kind of on their own over here. They are going to end up doing okay, and in the end, will do all right. But he's losing 10 workers. He's losing his extra production. The third base is having to lift off here, and now the Mutilars are coming back across to deal with these siege tanks. And there is not going to be a lot here from INnoVation to fight the next wave of the Zerg army whenever it swarms in, which should realistically be in the next little while. Here we go. Ling's already pushing forwards. Mutilars coming through as well. A couple Liberator shots are firing. Tank going down. Thor has to be saved. The Mutilars are going to clean up here fully. And INnoVation pulls back home to a ransacked third base. Now, he does have a fourth up and running, so he's not completely reliant on that third base as his only point of mining. Again, he did build the fourth quite early. But this damage should give Rogue the freedom to say, okay, I can drop down my, you know, Ultra's Cavern now. I can set myself up in towards a position where I'm able to go and tech up a little bit. Unless he really feels like he can just overwhelm right now, which he cannot. Rogue loses a lot trying to push in there, and that is costly. And yes, he's got 93 drones. He's got a very good economy. But INnoVation, fights like that keep him in the game against that good economy. And that's a fight Rogue didn't have to give INnoVation either. That was just a mistake. And Rogue is building 5 more drones. I feel like that might be a little bit overkill as we approach the 100 drone mark and 98 to 58 SCVs on the map. INnoVation supply blocked as well, so currently can't rebuild that work account either too much further. Just needs to work his way out of that as we see a few Marines already chasing those mutas back up to the top side. On the bottom, we've got an Overlord hanging out as well. Just going to be seeing the 3-3 upgrades still coming through from INnoVation also. And the Adrenal Glands 3-3 melee upgrades from the Zerg. Ultra's Cavern setting up in the back of the Natural. Mutas come over, picking off a Marine already. And again, this Bio Force setting up over on the far right. As we will see the Medevac loading up a few Marines, bringing it out up the right side. And off and away we go. As the Lings make their play in towards this position over here, we see the Bio already setting up, a couple of Thors getting out, and Bane's not really doing a good job. Like, the Thors are doing a lot of damage here before they go down, and the Banes, I mean, one finally connects on Marines towards the back end of this. That's a lot lost from Rogue again, and he's really not got the gas to rebuild a lot, and especially as the Ultra Cavern comes up, you're in this position where you kind of want the gas to spend on the Ultras. Now Lings are running into this once more. I don't like it from Rogue. I feel like he's been way too overly aggressive, and, you know, now Overlords are going down, and INnoVation is fighting his way back into this game off the back of Rogue just making some terrible engagement decisions. Drop up here, fights a Spine, that'll go down. I mean, these few mutas that are left, and there's only a few mutas left, 6 on the map. In fact, Rogue's even spending some of his gas rebuilding mutas instead of going into Ultras right away. I mean, this bottom left-hand base now is going down. I think Rogue, this is a bit cheeky, taking INnoVation's 5th base. I mean, come on, buddy, you know? That's, is this just Rogue just exuding? It'll just been way too overconfident? I mean, perhaps. That's going to be a nice run by into the 4th base, and that probably does go down. The SCVs are just going to evacuate. Unfortunately for them, they are going to get blown up, at least the back half of them, as the Banes, no, the Banes change direction. How do you not kill any SCVs here? Meanwhile, Rogue loses a base on the left-hand side as well, so now he's taking some really serious economic damage. He's losing bases. He's down to just 4. So he's down to 4 bases in a scenario where he's... It's just kind of crazy, right? Finally, he's going to start getting some SCV kills. Kind of playing about a finish, but again, Rogue, I mean, this base up here doesn't have gas on it. So he's actually missing a lot of gas income that he needs to really rebuild into these Ultras. And again, he's just not rebuilding into Ultras at all. He's going into more and more Mutalisks. Maybe, again, giving INnoVation a chance. I mean, I can understand the need for mutas, perhaps. You feel like you need them to shut down Medevacs, shut down drop play. But, I mean, this is a fight off creep where INnoVation is pre-split. Rogue does come in from all angles, but does that matter? When your Banes are just rolling into a concave of Bio, it does not. And INnoVation is going to push away up this top side. There's the GG from Rogue. And INnoVation is going to take the first map here in what seemed like an almost impossible comeback at points, because Rogue was just that far. Game number 2 of this best of 3. In the top right-hand side, our red Terran player, this from Kaizi Gaming, is INnoVation. Up 1-0, and up against the blue Zerg bottom left-hand side, Rogue. Montian with the 20 gifted subs in the channel to kick off this game. Those dings will go on for a little while. Thank you so much, Montian, a consistent hero of the stream. Can we get some love in the chat from Montian, guys? We will do those shoutouts when we wrap up this series. Thank you so much, Montian. I appreciate it. All the support, always dropping in. Crazy stuff. All right, so back at Industries, we've got to talk about this map because it's a fun one. You got base 1, base 2, base 3, or base 3 over here. It's got these acceleration zones. I really love the theory on this map. So the theory on this map, let me talk to you about it for a moment or two. The main and natural are pretty standard, then you have a choice of third bases. Now, if you take this third base here, it's pretty choked up. And you might be like, well, that's a really good base. It's choked up because look at the rush distance to your opponent's third if they take that base. It's so short, with an acceleration zone in the center as well. So if you go this third base, you immediately get close to your opponent, and so you take this you have this choke point to help you defend. If you take this third base, it's a bit more abusable perhaps, but it is further away. You know, this ramp, you know, this little ledge here is a Terran's, you know, absolute favorite thing to abuse with siege tanks, for example. You know, that's the sort of thing Terran positions will push as well. So I expect the Zerg to take this base here, despite it being close to the Terran. I mean, even, I did say this yesterday as well, I feel like this base itself is also very good for Terrans to push because it's got the choke from the Zerg to push out. It's, again, it's an interesting map. I don't think it's the friendliest for Zergs. We'll see what INnoVation does to maybe make use of it here in game number 2 of this best of 3. What are these maps? A quick answer to that question. These are maps from the Team Liquid map contest, number 14. If you type in !maps in the Twitch chat, you will find a list of all the maps that have made it to the finals, which is what we are using for this tournament. And you can vote on these. These are basically going to be your future ladder maps. Not all of them, but some of them. As we do see the Zerglings in the middle, taking some damage here, loses one of them, and we do see the drone very nearly goes down. That rip grenade a few moments earlier would have been amazing, as we do see a third CC from INnoVation again. So INnoVation not messing around when it comes to just getting that third base set up and running. So gets that underway. And just going to be having the second gas ready to be taken soon enough. So yeah, it is quite far natural to natural, but the third base to third base is kind of crazy once it gets to that point of if the Terran expands here. Now the Terran could also expand here, push down this way. It just depends, because this base is very easy to shut off from run-bys. This base not so much, because you've got 2 different entrances to then defend. But again, it kind of, I mean, you feel like you can push off this base here, but you can also push off this base over this way too, right? So there's a few different ways to look about it. It's a very interesting map to try and theory craft on. It's really, really interesting to try and figure out just how those kind of things are going to play out, as we do have the Reaper escaping away and still alive here to join up with the first few Hellions, which are finally out on the map from INnoVation. Going into that Cloakless Banshee again. INnoVation just saying, yep, found a build that worked for me last game, and I'll just do it once more. Not quite sure if it really worked for him last game versus Rogue, just made a few too many overcommitments, but we will see. Again, that creep was just never really dealt with last game either by INnoVation, so we'll see if he's also able to, or even if he wants to, fight the creep a bit more, if he just sort of, again, plays around it a little bit. Because that's definitely what he was doing for a lot of that game, trying to play around the creep, etc. It is scary though, because if the Zerg just gets control of the game, then the creep spread aids them so much. So you've got to, it's really interesting to see Terrans starting to just ignore that creep a little bit more some games. It just does feel like it's been a tendency we've seen out of Korea, especially in the last little while. Anyways, Baneland is dropping down from Rogue at the front, so he knows it's bio here. He's pretty confident about what's happening. He got a full scout at the base, so he's able to just get the Baneland nest up. He knows it's bio, start up the lair, and that probably means double Evo Chamber is not too far away, although it will be INnoVation on the faster 1-1 upgrades initially. Those 2 Hellions and the Reaper sitting out in the center then. And we do just see a few Zerglings over here nibbling away at these rocks, so rocks taking that little bit of damage. Queen's pressing forwards, as we do have Rogue just not really doing too much in general right now in terms of being aggressive. He's just droning up. Still waiting on the lab. We're still yet to see any Evo Chambers. It's going to be a big 1-1 upgrade advantage for INnoVation. As he walls off this side, he is just going to take the third base and wall this off here as well. So again, I feel like the great thing here from INnoVation is not only can you rally push, you're also going to be so safe from run bys and stuff. Like, it's going to be very tough for Rogue to hit run bys on these bases. Like, yeah, you can bust through walls, but having to already commit the Banes to bust through a wall to then try and deal damage is already a commitment you don't really want to be dealing with all the time. As INnoVation's been pretty passive with these Hellions, gotta say it. The crew spread's already been allowed to come forwards. The Hellions haven't done much, leaving a lot of them on the third base just to watch for an early game Zergling run by. As we do see the couple depots getting set down to go. Reaper and the Hellions getting ready as we see our Spire dropping in on the back of the natural expansion. And we've seen this Overseer finishing up as a couple of creep teamers going to be coming forwards into the center as well. And again, the Hellions just pulling back towards the Marine Tank Army, which, as these depots finish up, are going to lower and let the Marine Tank Army come out in toward the center here. Armory from INnoVation setting up on the natural expansion. Getting that ready to roll as we do see the Spire here from Rogue on the back of the natural as well. So again, just going to be seeing Hellion Marine Tank Force. Solid push, similar to what INnoVation did last game. I mean, this one is trying to line up with 1-1, but he doesn't have 1-1 yet. He doesn't want to get too over-eager, but there's also no Bane speed yet, so he's not too afraid of making this initial stem forwards. There's the Bane counterattack, and it's not even going to kill a supply depot. That's not pretty from Rogue. INnoVation, just with this 1-1 push, might still get something done, because even though you had to pull back a bit there, we are still at a point in this game where 1-1 is way, way, way far away from Rogue. And with tanks here to help support, the Hellions still alive from earlier. INnoVation's lost nothing this game so far. He has lost absolutely nothing just yet. Now, that is about to change, because these Lings are going to run across the map, and he is going to... Well, no, Rogue is like, no, you know what? I don't want to kill your perfect game. I will not. Let's see the tanks going to start firing. A few Lings already taking some damage. Naturally's going to drop down here. Logos get picked off. Sorry, Brulins get picked off. Still, INnoVation not losing a single unit just yet. That's terrifying. I mean, Rogue does not want to fight until 1-1 upgrades come into play, as INnoVation will stem forwards, picking off a bunch of creep teamers for the moment as well. Hellbats coming in as well. And still, the few Mutalisks still from Rogue making their way up to the top side. Finally, those are on the map, so finally he has the Mutalisks. And he does go into, I mean, it's kind of why the Bane speed was a bit later, why the 1-1 was a bit later, because he invested into that spy, he went for the Mutalisks. And his INnoVation this time, he's cleaned up so much of this creep spread. Now, surely Rogue is going to commit. No, still doesn't. He hasn't even killed a Marine. Sorry, he has killed something. He's killed a Marine. Victory for the Turk. He's got a scoreboard. He's on the scoreboard on the kill count. Oh my god. Here we go with this Marine Tank Force still pressing forwards, and it's going to see a little bit of Ling Bane trying to figure out a way to fight this. It is, I mean, what you can do is, you can't get around the top because of those rocks. You can probably come around the bottom side and come through the acceleration field and come from the right. I feel like that's better than trying to push through this choke point here, right? But I think what Rogue is, I was going to say, I think he wants to wait for INnoVation to push further forwards, and that's why he's just sat back. But then he does just go for it. There's way too much bio. INnoVation is just going to keep on pushing forwards. A couple of Marines tagging up the Overseer right there. Going to be seeing the extra few Banes morphing in. Tanks will siege, Marines coming in. A couple of Liberators are going to start sieging up, and just going to see those Marines able to pick away at these Banelings. So a couple of Banes going down, the rest of the Lings getting picked up. We do see this Queen going to throw down another inject on the fourth base. So trying to keep this rolling. This Rogue is going to need an absolute miracle of a fight here. The tanks, I mean, it feels like the Terrans barely even losing anything again. GG is called. INnoVation takes game number 2. What did he lose in the end? 25 units. I guess the tanks are kind of costly, but he only lost 17 Marines. Like, hello? My god, what a game for INnoVation. Game 2 goes his way, and he wraps this up 2-0, picking up that victory.